It is Friday, September 26th, 2025. This is another edition of Baseball Today, presented to you by Mountain Dew. Looking for a refreshing citrusy kick this summer? Go grab yourself a Mountain Dew. That is not my man, Trevor Plouffe. That is my dude, Dalton Feely. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan, intern Sawyer along for the ride as well. Little hack I should tell you about. Usually, because I'm this age, I have to stare at the top of my computer to remember what date it is when I say it at the top of the show. Today, I didn't need to do that because a
Wow.
tip of the cap to our youngest son, Brady Rose, on his 20th birthday. I'm actually in Indianapolis hanging out with him. This is what happens if you continue to water your kids when they're younger and little leaguers like that. They grow to have big, fuzzy beards as sophomores in college. So it's great getting to hang out with them this weekend. I got to do it last night. We watched baseball, watched some Thursday night football, and then today we got a big boys dinner out tonight. So it's going to be fun.
That's awesome. Floorball one legend, Brady Rose.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. He was there when the magic happened with our first Warehouse Games wedding between our own Sam Taskey and Nick Bowens. She's now Sam Bowens. So, that Nick was on his team.
I was going to say they're teammates. Yeah. And it all worked out. Hope you guys have a great time hanging out. Brady, happy birthday from me and the rest of John Boy Media, all of us in New York. So hope you have a great day and ready to talk some ball. And then after this, Rosie, you go hang out with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We got some good stuff. Like, I always implore people to find something that's like out of your norm to go do something with each one of your kids that's really special. For Brady and I, we've always built Legos together. So I had a Lego set shipped here that I knew that we were going to build this weekend. And if people are wondering where the queen is, she's got mom's weekend at the fraternity next weekend. So she gets to hang out with him then. So she didn't want to double up. So that's what we're doing. It's going to be fun. I cannot wait. If you want to give Brady a shout out in the comments, by all means, I'm sure he'd love it. Or he might not even see it because he doesn't know what I do for a living. Anyway, let's get to it. Final weekend of the regular season is here. We're going to start with a National League wild card update where you never know at this time of year who's going to be that hero.
He swings. High fly right field. Marte all the way back. Leaps at the wall. He caught it! He takes it away! A game-tying home run! The biggest play from Marte in the outfield! He saves the day!
Under the circumstances, that's one of the best plays I've ever seen. I mean, taking the time of the game, the time of the season, how high he got up. I don't care what adjective you put with it. Magic, desperation, that game's tied. That's taking a run off the board, man, and scores 2-1. So, you can do the math. Even I can.
Derek Francone always putting a great spin on it. Were you watching it live when it happened?
Yeah, I was. I was in the live stream lounge in the office. I was prepping some Talking Baseball. And so I saw the back half of the game. What a play by Noelvi Marte, man. I mean, 3-0, Brian Reynolds is swinging. Everything's gone wrong for the Reds in this series, and he makes the play of the season. Rose, I think the craziest thing about this play, though, it's his 51st game in the outfield. He was a third baseman entering the year. So a non-outfielder really making a play in the outfield to rob a home run and potentially save the Reds season. Truly remarkable. What a play. And Tito Francona, even when it's against my Snakes and hurting their playoff chances, puts a smile on my face because he is hilarious. That was such a great line.
Yeah, and I also don't think it's hyperbole to say when you consider the timing of where they were. If they go on and lose this game and get swept at home by the Pirates with the prospects of having to face the division-winning Brewers this weekend and they're down 2 with 3 to play, I don't think it's saying too much when you're like, yeah, he literally just saved our season. I was 35,000 feet in the air watching it. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. I don't know how many people cared about it on a flight from LA to Indianapolis, but I was one of them. And no, I didn't have a rooting interest in the game, except I like to root for chaos and fun and as many teams involved as possible. So I did have a little bit of rooting interest for the Reds in that case. And it was incredible. And when you consider kind of what Marte has A, put himself through, and B, been through, it's an enormous play for a guy who's still very early in his career. Remember, at the end of 2023 comes up, swings the bat well. We're thinking that, boy, that guy's going to be the starting third baseman for years there.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? He gets popped, 80-game suspension, has some issues, doesn't have a good year, and now he's fighting for a roster spot at the beginning of 2025. He doesn't break camp with the team. He's up, he's down, he's an injury replacement. They eventually trade for a third baseman in Ke'Bryan Hayes, so he started getting put in the outfield in July. They worked with him, and he ends up coming up with the biggest play of the year.
Unbelievable to become the hero. And he had been swinging one of the best bats for the Reds lineup that kind of has been inconsistent this year too. I mean, now he's kind of cooled off a little bit because at one point he had like a 120 OPS plus. Now it's down closer to league average. But for a Reds team that, the pitching has been great, the lineup and defense has been the bigger question mark within this team. For Noelvi Marte to make a play like that in that situation, and as you mentioned, if you get swept by the Pirates, you go face your demons in the Milwaukee Brewers. It could have been potentially a back-to-back extra inning loss at home versus a Pirates team that does decent at home, surprisingly, but then one of the worst teams in baseball, if not the worst team on the road, would have been devastating for Cincinnati. So shout out Marte for making a season-saving play.
All right, so let's spin it ahead to the weekend. It's 3 teams for one spot. The Mets have the lead, a 1-game lead over the Cincinnati Reds. The Mets are going to be at Miami. The Reds are going to be taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Your Diamondbacks, even though they lost against the Dodgers, they're 2 games back. They're still mathematically alive. A lot of bad has to happen in front of them for you to be smiling when we get to Sunday night. But still, there's always a glimmer of hope. How is this going to play out? And who is going to be the shining star?
So let's start off with the questions, right? Because every team has a major question going into this weekend. Let's start with New York Mets since they're leading the charge with an NL wild card. Pitching. Because the Mets rotation has been abysmal in the second half, right? Mm-hmm. That's been their biggest struggle. How are they going to shake out Friday, Saturday, Sunday? I believe Sproat is starting today's game. Saturday, Sunday, I don't believe has been officially announced yet, so there's a question mark there. Maybe by the time this episode releases, we'll know for sure. But for now, it's a question mark. But they're playing the Marlins team, who sure just got knocked out of playoff contention, losing to the Phillies last night 1-0. But they've been hot. I mean, towards the end of September, they've been one of the best teams in baseball, especially in the National League. And they have their top 3 arms going. They have Sandy, they have Yuri Perez, and Edward Cabrera. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you think this Marlins team is going to roll over and die versus a division rival, no way. The Mets, we've mentioned it the last 3 days, Rosie. Can they beat the Brewers? Can they beat the Brewers? I don't need to say more. And then for the Snakes, will their strategy of going bullpen game on Thursday, their great bullpen, work out while having their starters face the quote-unquote bubble wrap Padres, as Mike Schilt said yesterday? The star. That's the stage. We've set the stage, Rosie and I. We're excited. The star. I think, to me, when we think of the Reds, sure, Marte made that great play, but going into the year, and I think one of the biggest stars in baseball entering 2025 is Elly De La Cruz, right? I believe he's the face of the Cincinnati Reds. And I'll be honest, Rosie, he has been abysmal in the second half. And he's been dealing with this lingering quad injury for a majority of the second half too, which is, caused him to struggle. But a 659 OPS in 62 games in the second half while batting .235, that's not getting the job done. And to add the cherry on top, obviously we've mentioned the Reds and the Milwaukee struggle, but Elly has not played well in Milwaukee. That's one of his worst stadiums he's played at in his career. He's a .206 hitter, 25 Ks and 70 plate appearances, just 2 homers within those 16 games. So he's had his own struggles, right? But he's starting to heat up a little bit. He batted .304 with a 1 dot over the last week. He hit 2 home runs. He's starting to look like that guy we've seen throughout his entire young career. So when we think of the Reds, we think of this guy, Elly De La Cruz, up until the second half. If the Reds want to exercise their demons by beating the Brewers and making the postseason since the first time since 2020, Elly De La Cruz has to be the hero, and we need an Elly moment, whether it's in the field, a big nuke home run, or inside the park, something on the bases. Elly, it's time for you to show up and help Cincy make the playoffs.
It's a great call. You need it. I think I've been a little disappointed with his year. I thought this was going to be another huge step, and it just felt kind of like a sideways shuffle for him more than anything else this year. And that's okay. He's still young. It's not like, my God, what happened to Elly De La Cruz? But the improvements, if they've been there, have been minimal at best, is how I would describe it. And maybe Reds fans can let us know if I'm off base or not. So this really comes down to the Mets. Okay? They had this let's start with the offseason. they go out and get the biggest free agent ever in terms of dollars in the history of the sport. A team that pushed the Dodgers to 6 games in the NLCS, and you're thinking, man, we just took somebody from the freaking New York Yankees. We did it. Like, we've done it. We're not only ready to go toe for toe in the financial world with the Yankees, we're ready to take on the Dodgers and anybody else that wants to play with us. And it felt like that way for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the year. And over the last, what do they have, a bottom 5 record? This team has a bottom 5 record over the last several months, like last 10 weeks or whatever it's been. That's disgraceful. But you have a way to wipe it clean. And there is such a huge faction of that fan base that does not believe. We just had Jolly Olive on the show on Tuesday. He's like, yeah, I'm packing it up. I'm like, Jolly, come on, man. You're right there. What are we doing? He's like, no, Rose, I've seen this way too many times. And he's only in his mid-20s, so he hasn't seen it too many times. But that is the scar tissue that I talk about with my beloved Cleveland sports teams that is now festered other fan bases, including a big bad one in New York City. So go do what you have to do in Miami, what all good older New Yorkers do when they retire down there in the state of Florida. Go kick it. Go have some fun. And it will happen courtesy of their longest tenured New York Met, Brandon Nimmo, who cannot stand to have the prospects of this being the final weekend for his buddy Pete Alonso in a Mets uniform for the second straight year. He has actually torched Miami this year. 4 home runs. He's got 22 lifetime doubles against the Marlins. That's the most against any opponent. He's got the second most homers he's ever hit against a team have come against the Miami Marlins. He will go deep at least once. You'll see Nimmo sprinting around the bases and all that energy. He's been in that organization since he was a first rounder in 2011, and he will put his stamp on a Mets postseason berth this weekend.
Wow, Jolly Olive's going to be very happy to hear that, Rosie. Yeah. I mean, if you're right, exercise those demons for the Mets. I say the Reds, and of course I rep a Diamondback shirt, and I'm out. And I want it to be the Snakes. It's just
feels like it's a little long for them. By the way, if the Mets do not make the playoffs this weekend, I will promise to buy Jolly Olive whatever the goop he puts in his hair to make it that perfect. The next order, Jolly, is on me. I'll pick up the bill. I'll Venmo you whatever it is. Maybe get an extra canister of it. I have no idea what it puts in there, but it looks great. So, Jolly, you're a winner either way this weekend, either with the way you feel in your heart or the way you look on top of your head. Courtesy of Rose. This episode, Baseball Today, brought to you by Square. Now, sports are something that help bring neighborhoods together, whether it's a sports bar dedicated to a specific fan base or a game day ritual involving the best wings in town. Neighborhood businesses help grow communities. Now, I'm out of town this weekend, but most Saturdays you can find me at my local watering hole. I put baseball on the side screen because I want to put college football on the big screens, which I get it. The whole point is we have a good time. We hang out, we laugh, have a few suds, kick it. It's a good time. Neighborhood businesses, they help make a community feel unique and welcoming. They're the spots that people love, almost kind of like a second home. When local shops are successful, the whole area, it benefits. Now, shopping nearby keeps money circulating locally, helps small business owners grow. That community support, it matters. Even one visit can have a real impact. Now, Square partners with more than 4 million neighborhood businesses worldwide, celebrating their role in keeping communities vibrant. Right now, you can go to square.com/today to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, we'll see you in the neighborhood. All right. Now we're seeing what's going on in the American League, and there is a ton of interesting stuff. Let's start in the American League Central, where Detroit snapped an 8-game skid. They had a leadoff homer by Jones. They kept hitting the ball over the wall against Parker Messick. Tigers never looked back in that one.
0-2. Vest gets him swinging. The losing streak is over. The Tigers are back in a first-place tie at the top of the American League Central.
And while that is true, Jason Benetti, Cleveland does own the tiebreaker over the Tigers. So those are the American League Central standings you're looking at. AL wild card, we're still trying to figure that one out as well, where Cleveland and Detroit are tied for that last spot, if you will. Houston is 1 game back, and Houston loses a tiebreaker to both of those teams. So what are you most closely watching for this weekend?
The entire AL, because you mentioned the AL Central, you mentioned the third wildcard spot. Heck, the AL East too.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the entire American League. But for me, the series to watch by far and away is the Detroit Tigers going to the Boston Red Sox, because that is a series where both teams have lots of stake on it, right? Boston Red Sox are the second wild card team currently. They're in a pretty good spot, but hey, if they get swept, things could get very funky for Boston. Yesterday was the opportunity for Boston to clinch. They needed to either win or have Houston lose. And guess what happened, Rose? Neither of those things happened. So Boston is still at risk, though, albeit a very long shot for them to miss the playoffs. But the Detroit Tigers, they needed that win last night, Rose.
Mm-hmm.
If they got swept by Cleveland, I think that's where you roll over and die. You got to give credit to Detroit. They beat Parker Messick, like you said, and they are going into a series versus Boston where it's, hey, if we take 2 of 3 over Boston, now we're tied and we could potentially be that 5th wildcard team. Heck, if Cleveland struggles, we're that AL Central team. So by winning yesterday, all it takes is 1 game to get back on the roll. There's a world where even after this entire September being a complete mess for the Detroit Tigers, they could still win the AL Central.
Mm-hmm.
They could still be the 5th team in the AL, the 6th team in the AL. Good win. Detroit versus Boston is the biggest series to watch.
It is. I'm going to have one eye on the Cleveland and Rangers series, where even though they don't have to deal with DeGrom, and obviously Eovaldi has been out for several weeks now, and they don't have to deal with Seager, and they don't have to deal with Simeon, there's still 3 pretty good pitchers, and it starts tonight with Jack Leiter. And for those of you in Cleveland lore, like myself and my tortured fan base, 1997, Game 7 of the World Series. Who started it for the then Florida Marlins? Jack's dad, Al, who used to walk around MLB Network with his Marlins World Series ring and would walk past me and be like, "Hey, Chris, how you doing?" I'd be like, "Al, not nice." Nice. So, Al, this is where it stops. I root for Jack Leiter an awful lot. I've known him since he's been like 12. And so I've seen him mature. He's a super nice kid, and I'm really happy for him and proud of him. But stay out of my damn house this weekend, Jack Leiter. Okay? You can go 3 2/3. If you want to strike out a few, fine. But give up some runs. Your family owes it to me. So I'm obviously watching that. The other thing, and I just kind of breezed past it, but what Cleveland, the smart Cleveland sports fans are doing is rooting for the Guardians to win the first 2, to have Boston take at least Friday or Saturday, and to have Houston then win the first 2 of their series against the Angels, so that Detroit's game on Sunday means they're fighting for their wild card lives.
Skubal.
And if that's the case, then they have to burn Tarek Skubal. The nightmare for Cleveland is that somehow they figure out a way. The biggest nightmare is losing and having Houston blow past them, obviously not making it. The second worst one is that Skubal doesn't have to pitch, and he's either pitching game 1 in Cleveland on Tuesday or in Detroit. And that is a real possibility.
I will say, Rosie, for the AL, and this could bite me in the ass, but I think the teams are set. I really do. I do not think the Houston Astros are making the playoffs. I'll just put it there. I know they had a bounce back game versus the A's, breaking their own losing streak, maybe not as long as the Detroit Tigers 8 game. But that said, the Houston Astros, they lose every tiebreaker against all these AL teams, whether it's the Red Sox, Tigers, or Cleveland.
Right.
So not only are they a game back from the Tigers currently, they're really 1.5 back because they don't have the tiebreaker against them. So they need a lot of chaos to happen on top of the American League for them to even sniff the chance. And I'll be honest, I just don't see it. I think this is the year. The Astros have made the playoffs in, I feel like, 8-9 consecutive years, and this is going to be the first time in nearly a decade they won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see. And, Jordan missing 100 games and then coming back and being out of this world great and then slipping on home plate. And that little jaunt across the dish is something that could end up costing them a playoff berth. That's going to be a tough one to sit. But You got 3 games, and weird shit happens. Doesn't matter who you're playing, and we know that. I'm just telling you, that's how it goes. All right, so the AL East, you mentioned it. Let's get to it right now. Down to the wire this weekend because both the Blue Jays and the Yankees have the same exact record. Blue Jays did win the season series over New York, so they do have the edge in the tiebreaker. But as for the Blue Jays, they finally got back on track last night.
In Kansas City, a left-hander.
And he's hit it high and deep to right. Grand slam, Dalton Varsho.
So that was a big deal there by Dalton Varsho. No complaining about the umpires, which was nice for the Blue Jays and their fans. And did you notice that there was a combined perfect game in like the 6th or something? I was like, God, I hope they don't throw a perfect game. I can't deal with a combined perfect game.
Well, it's funny, Rosie. It's never happened in baseball.
Right.
This would have been the first ever combined perfect game in baseball history, but Jarren Duran breaks it to lead off the top of the 7th with a double. I will say, Rosie, I personally think, and now it's definitely true, if you have the name Dalton, you just have that clutch gene. Plain and simple. Right? Dalton Varsho, Dalton Thiele, Darren Dalton, I guess. But hey, the Blue Jays, we talked about it. They needed a win. John Schneider came out the day prior and said, the sky is not falling. And right now in the Rogers Center, the sky is back. It's blue. The sun is out. They needed that win. And now it's just divisional ball between both the Yankees versus the Orioles and now the Blue Jays and the Rays. One big note, Rosie. The Blue Jays are playing the Rays. Rays out of it. They're in 4th in the American League East. But the Blue Jays have not won a season series versus the Rays since 2019. This is pre-COVID ball.
It's crazy.
So, it's a crazy thing. And I know this isn't your mama's Rays, but that said, you got to just beat them, right? They're on your schedule. Anything can happen. You just said it in the previous talking points for the American League Central. I think, the Yankees and the Orioles, we've talked about that in the past too, where the Yankees have kind of owned the Orioles up until 23, where the Orioles have become good again. But I think the Blue Jays have a bigger chance of falling out of the American League East, even with that tiebreaker. And I think the Yankees will win the division.
You do, huh?
Yeah.
I think tonight is the key night. I think that if somehow the Blue Jays can scrap their way to a victory, to me, I'm going to be watching Rogers against the Yankees because last Friday he was awesome. He allowed 1 hit and 2 walks, I believe, in 6 shutout innings against them. Now, it was a series where New York ended up taking 3 out of 4, so big picture wasn't that big a deal. But I talk about it all the time. Starting pitchers can be a tone setter in a 3-game set, and particularly when there's one as monumental as here. I'll be also curious to see how they pitch to Aaron Judge. I mean, look, we talked about it on yesterday's show, kind of where he ranks in the pantheon and the history of this sport. Let's boil it down to, if he only played the Baltimore Orioles, he would have been the greatest player to ever walk the earth. He's got 49 homers against them. That is 8 more against any other team. He just simply, every time he sees that uniform, something happens to him. Not that he's not a great player when he's playing the other 28 teams, but something weird happens. So how will they pitch to him? Now, he only went 3 for 14 in the 4-game set last week, and he did have that home run. That was his lone extra base hit. But I don't know if he want to attempt it in front of the New York fans. I'll be curious to see. Are you going to give him anything to hit, or are you going to make somebody else in that lineup beat you?
I feel like teams all year have been making other players like Cody Bellinger, Jazz Chisholm beat you because I believe Aaron Judge set the American League record for most intentional walks in a season with 35. And if I'm Toronto, I'm saying, Aaron Judge, you are the greatest hitter in the game right now. You're going to take first base. You have a good time, especially with, runners in scoring position. Potentially first base is open. It's a surefire. Got to walk them. But ultimately, Rosie, I'm saying it. I'm taking the Yankees, and it kind of irks me to say it because I hear it all the time with all the Yankee fans in the office, but I think the Yankees are going to sneak past the Blue Jays. The Rays are going to have the Blue Jays number this weekend, and the Yankees will win the American League.
There's a big part of me that doesn't want to see that happen, not because, look, if my team's in the playoffs, obviously I'm just rooting for them, and that's all that matters to me. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, Rose, you hate the Yankees. I don't hate them any more than I hate any other team in the American League. I really don't. Y'all can think whatever you think. I want to see a 4-5 matchup between the Yankees and Red Sox. I just do. Even if it's just a 3-game series, I still want to see it. I like it. I like the energy. I like the postseason. Like, what, a couple of years ago, we got treated to a 1-game playoff, that one where Garrett Cole got lit up. That wasn't any fun. It was for Boston fans, but you can't dig yourself in a 1-game. It's even hard enough in a 3-game series, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
And we did have it a few years ago. What was it? Was it 2021? Oh, it's 2018? And God, it's been that long since they played a multiple playoff series.
And why do you seem so sad about that?
No, nobody can hear Dan Rourke, so when he talks to us, nobody else can hear him.
Very good.
We don't give him a microphone to be able to talk to the rest of the people. We keep the animal in the cage. But yes, he just filled me in that 4-game series win by Boston happened in 2018. So it's been a while. I would like to see that as a baseball fan.
I'm fast forwarding, Rose, real quick for the ALDS. I want either Yankees Blue Jays or Yankees Sox there, because the level of toxicness that could happen in a 5-game set between the Yankees and one of those two teams would be bonkers. And I don't know if the city of New York or the city of Toronto or the city of Boston will be able to handle it. And that's what I want. I don't want Yankees Red Sox in the AL wildcard. I prefer it in the divisional where it's all spread out.
By the way, I always forget, they preset the bracket in baseball. It's not, they don't readjust it based on who wins the first round series. Like if the 6 seed upsets the 3 seed, they don't go and play the 1 seed. They go and play the 2 seed, right? It's the baseball. What are we doing? It's so simple. It is so, I don't understand the thought process.
That's our football brain, Rosie. I always do that. I always have to triple check and make sure it's a set bracket, unlike football.
And people will say, well, it's the NCAA tournament version of it. Yeah, but that is way different. You're talking about presetting sites and things of that nature. Here, who gives a shit? I mean, the series will either be at the 1 or the 2 seed, and you don't know which team's going to play them anyway. So you just tell them, get on a plane. You're going to that city, and you're going to that city.
Yep.
Am I missing something?
Nope. I think that's a simple fix, and it should be done.
Okay, let us know in the comments section. A bunch for you to do. Backtracking. National League wildcard, how is that going to play out? American League Central wildcard, who's going to end up getting the top seed? Because we still don't know that. It's going to be the AL East winner and the Seattle Mariners that'll get the bye. We just don't know who it's going to end up being. And then in the National League, it's going to be Milwaukee and Philly. We just don't know who's 1 and who's 2 yet. So still a lot to determine. I can't wait. 3 games to go, and it's all up for. I love it. Love it. I also love this, that it's time for our Like a Bosch Player of the Week, which is brought to you by Bosch Power Tools. Just like Bosch Power Tools, this player got the job done through hard work, grit, and determination. Who is your Player of the Week?
All right, Rosie, I'm wearing a shirt, and I'm going with the former Snake. I'm going with Eugenio Suarez of the Mariners. He hit for 348, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, 5 runs, a 1.2 this week. Yesterday, Thursday, he tied his career high with 49 home runs. Now, Rosie, looking at it from the whole Major League Baseball perspective, if he reaches that 50 homer mark, it'll be the first season in baseball history where 5 players, that's right, 5 players reached the 50 home run mark. That's pretty cool for the history of the game. But not only going for the history of the game, but there's some history for Eugenio Suarez personally, too. Like I said, he tied his home run record back in 2019 with 49 home runs. If he reaches that 50 mark, he'd become the first Venezuelan player to hit 50 home runs in a season.
Cool.
So that's pretty darn cool with all the great Venezuelan players that have played the game of baseball. For Eugenio Suarez to potentially do that, that's amazing. And looking at the Mariners, right? Gino, you trade for him at the deadline. It's his second stint with the team. If the Mariners want to continue this run, their 17-3 streak over their last 20, they're going to need him to bop some homers in the ALDS and even further if they get there. Eugenio Suarez, Arizona misses you, but you're doing great in Seattle. Shout out. You are my Bosch Player of the Week.
I had multiple guys. I saw the Mariners right around the trade deadline, and we were talking about the rumors, and I had multiple players say we never should have traded him. He meant so much to our clubhouse. He's one of the great, great human beings around the sport and just a neat guy. And I'd love to see him hit 50. He's had a really, really good career. So this year I have talked, and we on this show have talked very little about the Colorado Rockies, and with good reason. The only time we've mentioned them, I think, this year is because their manager, Buddy Black, got fired. We talked about Kyle Freeland chirping, and that's been about it. So I'm going to give Blaine Crim a little love. Let's do it. Over the last week plus, so give me an extra day on the front side of this, he hit 4 homers. Saw him go deep in Seattle. That was nice. Now, this, you're like, Blaine Crim, not really familiar. He's a guy who spent a half dozen years in the Rangers organization, finally got his crack at the show earlier this year when the Rangers were dealing with a lot of injuries. He said, I never really fit in their plans, and I get it. Even when I got called up to the major leagues, I didn't really see how I was going to fit. He was right. He got DFA'd at the end of July. He got picked up off of waivers by the Rockies, and he's done a nice job. He hit safely in 10 of his first 11 games as a big leaguer. He's in his late 20s. I don't know what sort of future, but, the Rockies are looking at everything, and they should be, and Blaine Crim is one guy, so why not? Good job, dude. I'll give you some snaps, give you some golf claps in honor of the Ryder Cup, in which, at the time we're taping, we're getting our ass kicked already. Today's episode, Baseball Today, it is sponsored by Bosch. When you pick up a Bosch power tool, it makes you feel empowered and confident and appreciated. No matter what job lies ahead, you will crush it. As a global leader for power tools, measuring tools, and accessories, Bosch's innovative product solutions, they're built with quality engineering and precision in mind. The assortment of products ensures that you have the right tools in your toolbox to tackle a variety of tasks with relative ease. Bosch's 18-volt battery platform powers numerous tools, creating a consistent energy home base that keeps the brand's family of tools running. Like your favorite players on the field, Bosch Power Tools make sure that you are powered up, ready for anything that gets thrown your way, because the more you Bosch, the more you feel like a Bosch. So head on over to BoschTools.com today. Learn more about the power tools you need to get the job done right each and every time. All right. Familiar refrain in the National League West. Even if the GPS seemed like it was on the fritz this year, Dodger Blue back where it belongs.
Ground ball to third, over to first, 12 times in 13 years. The Dodgers have won the West. 12 division titles in 13 years, 13 wins from a dynasty.
I think we're going to really turn the corner now from this point forward on investing in each other, being, the best teammates we can be to find a way to win every game. So I'm excited for what's to come.
That's the sounds of Blake Snell if you're joining us audio only. But I want to get back to the call of Joe Davis, who said 13 wins between themselves and a dynasty. Do you agree?
I don't. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to the Los Angeles Dodgers and what they've done in the 2010s and beyond. If they win the World Series this year, if they go back to back for the first time since the Yankees in 98 to 2000, I think the conversation can start going to the 2026 season, right? You're going for your third potential World Series, consecutive World Series win. That's where I think the dynasty starts. Because my opinion, I think a dynasty is when you win 3 within like a 5-year span.
This would be 3 and 6.
It would be, with the COVID year. Yep, that's for sure. So we're inching on it. It's still outside of my parameters. And obviously people have mentioned about the COVID season. It's a World Series win. Obviously it was a different type of year. Still a World Series win. And I know I'm a Diamondback fan, but it's true. And I will say that to everyone. It is still a World Series win for the Los Angeles Dodgers. But that's it. I would use a different D word to describe the Dodgers. Dominant. Very good, Rose.
Okay.
I knew that's the word you were thinking.
You had me. Hey, for a guy who's gotten in trouble on TV for using a D word, I just had to be really careful. Thank you.
I was just riding the wave, Rose. You never know. But yes, I mean, Rose, they haven't missed the playoffs since 2012, right? This is a team that, as Joe Davis said in his call, they've won the NL West 12 of the last 13 years, and the one year they didn't, it was when they won 106 games and the San Francisco Giants won 107. Like, it was an anomaly of a year for the reason why the Los Angeles Dodgers haven't won 13 consecutive National League West titles. They are a dominant team. And if they win the World Series this year, I think the dynasty talks will get even louder and louder, as they should. But let's see how the postseason goes. They'll be playing in their first wild card series since 2021. If they make it through the gauntlet that is the National League to represent the NL and they win the World Series, I think 100% the dynasty talks begin.
I'm just curious why 3-6 is so much different than 3-5.
For me, I mean, I do think part of it is the year that they did it, right? Because there is no asterisk whatsoever. It was just a very bonkers season, a shortened season. They still get the World Series title. For me,
Thus an asterisk, Dalton.
yeah, but like, yes and no, because I'm not someone who says it's not a World Series title. It is 1,000% a World Series title. It was just the parameters instead of playing a 162, because for a long time prior to 2024, the talks of the Los Angeles Dodgers was they couldn't play a full 162 and go on a deep postseason run to win a World Series. They broke the curse back in '88 when they won this World Series in 2024. I think it's very close to a dynasty talk, Rose.
When I heard him say it, because it didn't even register in my mind until I heard Joe call the last out. Like, I didn't even think about it. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, I thought about it back in May when they had this really good team and could they get to 117 wins? And then it hasn't even registered at all. And so I really had to sit down and think about it. And I wonder if in this sport that we have to change our definition of a dynasty. I really do. Look at how long it has been since we've had a repeat champion. It's been a quarter century. Even those Giants teams, when they won 3 out of 5, do you know what they did the other 2 years? Nothing. Zip.
Yes, right? Yeah.
Right. At least the Dodgers have been consistently winning a division. Now, have they made a deep run? No, they went, the year after winning it all in 2021, they lost to the Braves in the NLCS. But then in 22 and 23, they did not win a playoff series. Do you ding them for that? Do you hold it against them? I think it's still a lot of stuff that's kind of bouncing around in my mind. I do think that if they win this year and make it 3 out of 6, that I am willing to call it a dynasty based on the run they've gone through in the regular season. And Plouffe and I talk about this all the time. I don't know where you sit, but out of all the sports, I think this is the toughest one for the best team in the regular season to then go on and win it, the whole thing. I really believe that.
I think so too. I think you're 100% right. And we've had some recent talks with Major League Baseball, right? It felt like it was a little bit of a curse to have that bye as the 1 or 2 seed. And because for some reason in recent years, those teams have struggled in the playoffs. Not every year, but there's been some instances where I think 2 of the last 3 years, 3 or more teams, whether it be a 1 or 2 seed, have been knocked out within the AL or NLDS. I agree with you, though. I think baseball is the hardest sport because it's just so many games in the regular season, right? You prove that you are the best, and then it just dwindles down to either a 3-game series in the wild card, 5 in the DS, or 7 games. It's not completely spread out like that regular season. I do have one question for you, Rose, before we move on. What would be your definition of a dynasty? Because you said we would change the definition of baseball. What would it be?
Well, I think that it can be a little bit of a moving target because I don't think it can fit nicely into 4 walls. I really don't, because that's what I said is that the way the Dodgers have dominated, and they've been in a division which has put out some decent teams, right? I mean, the Arizona Diamondbacks made the World Series. The Padres, a lot of people last year felt like they were the second best team in the sport. The Giants, it's been a while since they've kind of left a stamp.
Yeah.
But they did win it in 2014. So during this Dodger run that they've been on, they did win a World Series. The Rockies have been whatever, but every team seemingly has one of those in their division. So I do think it's okay to call them a dynasty. Even though I didn't think about it until less than 24 hours ago, I think I might be on board with it. Okay. Where do people, I want to know where people sit in the comments section, because I think that we have really evolved. We're not looking at it like those Yankees championship teams of yesteryear when they're winning all of those World Series with Yogi Berra. And then, in the 70s, the Reds win back-to-back. The Yankees win back-to-back. The A's, I would call them a dynasty with winning those 3 in the early 70s. In the 80s, we didn't have any teams that, what do we have? We went Phillies, Dodgers, Cardinals, Orioles, Tigers, Royals, Mets, Twins, Dodgers, A's. I mean, you get my point. Like, there's nothing back to back. We got the 90s. We had the Blue Jays with back to back. Then we had the Yankees with 4 out of 5 and 3 out of 4, and that's definitely a dynasty. To me, it changes. It has changed because the Dodgers have the regular season dominance, and then they'd have 3 rings in 6 seasons. That's pretty damn good to me.
The other thing, the only other team, right? Houston. Up until this year, right? Because since 2017, they've been a very dominant team. They had won 2 World Series in 22 and 17. Obviously, we talked about asterisk, for the potentially for the 2020 World Series. There is definitely an asterisk for the Houston Astros in 2017. No questions asked. Would you consider that close to a dynasty, even with those allegations?
Well, I can't say close to a dynasty because to me, a third ring is what solidifies it.
Okay.
A third ring in a short span. And to me, a short span is 6 years. But I want to hear what how they define it. Yeah, we talked about the Giants. 3 rings in 5 years. I think that qualifies. Now, their lows were significantly lower than what the Dodgers are, but 3 rings in 5 years, yeah, I'm willing to take those years where we sit out the postseason party and have some weird stuff happen. People say, well, Buster Posey didn't play. Yeah, I mean, injuries happen. The Cardinals lost Adam Wainwright, and they won a freaking World Series. So that sort of stuff happens. That's a good one, though. Need some comments, need some perspective, some thoughts on where we are and what we could be looking at. All we know is it's going to be a long road for the Dodgers. They got a lot of issues, and for the first time during this run, since they changed the playoff format, they have to play in the 3-game wildcard set. Something new for them. All right, before we get out of here for the weekend, close up the regular season, the guy who caught Big Dumper's 60th homer, this is a great, great story. The guy's name is Glenn. So the ball gets hit out, and there's Glenn holding it, and all these people are like, oh my gosh, it's a baseball, let me touch. Well, here's what Glenn did moments after catching that ball.
He did it! Oh my God, they gave it away to this kid! Oh my God! Congrats, kid!
That is a great video. I loved every bit of it because you could see how much it meant to the fan base out there. And hey, he caught the ball. And then, oh my God, he gave it away to the little kid's name is Marcus. And so the Seattle, my buddy Adam, who runs the PR department, put out like an all points bulletin. We have to find this gentleman who did this good deed. And they found Glenn. They invited he and his family down to take pictures with Cal Raleigh, who signed some balls for the kids and a bat as well. And I love what he wrote on the bat to Glenn. He says, thanks for being a good guy. I love that. He signed it Big Dumper in parentheses, which is even better. So in a year where we had that crazy Karen go rip the ball out of a kid's hand, essentially, it is nice to end the regular season with a milestone and see that there is a lot of good in the world.
Absolutely. And we had that other story earlier in September. Mike Trout hits his 400th home run. He has a catch on the field after hitting the 400th home run with the guy who caught the home run ball. So it's nice to see both, the players recognizing that it's a milestone, but then they do this very kind act to the people who caught the ball.
Yeah, it's great. And Marcus, apparently the kid, all he wanted was some autographs. He said, I'm not going to put it up for sale or anything,
right?
Which is people's right. Once that ball goes into that crowd, I always think that you don't do anything except catch the ball. And if it means something to Cal Raleigh, if it means something bigger picture to the history of the sport, I don't know. People always fight me on this one because a bunch of years ago, remember Salvador Perez set the catcher home run record?
Yeah, 48,
he did it in Cleveland. I blasted the fan for catching the ball and then running out of the stadium. And I was like, that's horrific. Give it back to Salvi. Go get yourself a couple of signed jerseys from him. Take some pictures, shake some hands, and be the good soldier. Instead, I had a bunch of people pushing back saying, well, you don't know that guy's financial situation. I'm sitting going, you don't go to the baseball game thinking you can get rich because you're going to catch a historic home run ball. So just do the right thing. And people were yelling at me. They're like, Rose, you don't struggle for money. Well, number one, you don't know my financial situation. Number two, you're right. I don't know everybody's financial situation, but I don't know. I think that good things come back to you when you do good things. And I loved seeing that out of Glenn, and good for the kid Marcus too.
Yeah. We needed a wholesome moment.
Dig it. All right. That's our last regular season show of Baseball Today. Do you think if I had told you 3 years ago, Dalton Feely, that you would be doing the last regular season show of the 2025 year of Baseball Today, you would have said,
Rose, are you crazy? What are you talking about?
there you go. There you go.
Don't you mean my friend Nikki Cass is going to do the show with
That's
you?
funny. Now
Yeah.
that's funny. I love that.
But no,
Well,
Rose,
you did an amazing job this week. You know, I had seen you do the show a bunch of times. I know how smart and talented you are. You're even better than advertised. So I hope you had as much fun as I did over these last 3 days. It was great. Hopefully your Diamondbacks at least make it interesting this weekend, Dalton.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick shout out. Appreciate you all for listening. And Rose, producer Dan, intern Sawyer, thank you for having me on. It's been a blast this regular season filling in once in a while. Appreciate everyone listening, and let's go baseball today. Much love.
Yeah. We are cranking it up for the postseason. Trevor Plouffe will return on Monday after a brief break. Enjoy your baseball this weekend, whether you're looking for individual milestones, some careers maybe coming to an end, or your team is still fighting it out to be a postseason dog. Just enjoy it and soak it all in. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, our awesome intern, Sawyer, that is the uber-talented Dalton Feely. I am Chris Rose. We will see you Monday here on Baseball Today, presented to you by Mountain Dew.